Archbishop Andrews, the President of CCI. Over to the MC.
Good morning and namaste to everyone. As we step into day 2 of this remarkable gathering, let's take a moment to appreciate the shared mission and dedication that brought us all together. Yesterday was a profound beginning filled with inspiring addresses and a spirit of unity. Today promises to build on that momentum with thought-provoking sessions and impactful discussions. We will start with a session by Sri P.J. Thomas IAS Retd, exploring the vital role of the laity in India's socio-political context. The day unfolds with a panel discussion on critical topics such as safeguarding the earth, integrating science and faith, and economic empowerment of the Christian laity. Later, we will delve into reports from regional council and national centers, a session on minority rights, and wrap up the evening with a cultural program showcasing our shared heritage. As we engage in today's activities, let us remind ourselves of the significance of our presence here. Together, we represent the voice of the Church in India, a voice of hope, justice, and transformation. Your contributions today will shape the future of our mission. Request all to participate in the discussions. Let us proceed with energy, enthusiasm, and a prayerful heart, making this day a meaningful and inspiring as it can be. I hand over the mic to Father Jolie.
Yeah, in order to introduce our resource persons, we had only twice our telephone conversation. But we have a great man here who had been for so many years the Deputy Secretary of CBCI, Dr. Chinnayan. He is the right person to introduce Dr. P.J. Thomas IAS. May I welcome Dr. Chinnayan to introduce our chief guest, please.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Really respected Archbishop Andrews, the President of CBCI and CCBI, Your Grace Archbishop Machado of Bangalore, Your Excellency Bishop Alex, and the CCBI office bearers, Father Raju, the Secretary, Mr. Antos, the Vice President, Ms. Clara, the Vice President, and Treasurer, Mr. Cherian, and all the dearly beloved members of the CCI and the members of the local organizing committee. Before I get into my job of introducing our highly respected Mr. P.J. Thomas, I would like to just as 2 sentences or 2 minutes how happy I am to be here with you. As you know, I had the opportunity to be associated with organizing such CCI meeting for the last few GMs, one in Varanasi, in Hyderabad, and in Bangalore. It was in 2017, I suppose. For various reasons, you could not have another GVM meeting as scheduled for once in 2 years because of the COVID and all. So in that meeting in Bangalore, only the new office bearers were elected. And at least half of you I know quite well. So the sole intention of my coming here and to be with you for a day or 2 is just to see and just to have the pleasure and happiness of being with you for this meeting. One thing I am very happy to tell you that during the time when I was also associated with this, we were, Your Eminence, as repeatedly you said, His Eminence is the driving force behind all these meetings, you know. So one thing I noted was this CCI has grown very much due to the selfless effort of all of you, especially the present office bearers. His Eminence as the then President, His Grace as Archbishop as the Vice President of CBCI, we were always trying to foster and encourage this association, precisely because it is the Pastoral Council. The first time the new bylaw was amended and promulgated by, of happy memories, His Beatitude Cyril Marbeselius, the Major Archbishop of Trivandrum. And during those days, it was the first duty of His Eminence, Cardinal Oswald Gracious, to find fund for our GM meetings. Part of the fund will be given by the CBCI. The rest, His Eminence will use his good influence with some agencies and get some fund. But this time I noticed that you have said, we did not ask for any fund from anyone, but it is self-raising. Not only that, the whole credit goes to one person. I don't want to repeat the name always, but still it is Mr. Antos. You know, our GM, this Catholic Council of India, was rather just moving very slowly, very slowly. We didn't have an account when I just left the office because of some various problems with the government of India. Now we have an account, we have a deposit, and we will be having an office in the CBCI also. That is some center. That is something very, and it is precisely because of the energetic leadership of Father Raju, Mr. Clara, and Mr. Charian, and especially of Mr. Antos as well, with the blessings and guidance of our highly ecclesiastic dignitaries, especially now Archbishop Antos Tharath. With these words, I just move on to my duty of welcoming to say my dearly beloved, highly esteemed friend, Mr. P.J. Thomas. Before introducing Mr. P.J. Thomas as a person, I would like to go back into his history. That means family history. If anyone could claim to know him and his family better than me, with my humble submission, I don't think anyone is here for that. As a young seminarian of 14 or 13 years, that is in 1964-65, I was amazed and surprised to see his father, Mr. Joseph IAS, the Joint Secretary of the Finance, addressing the seminarians in our minor seminary. So every year he was the same person who used to come and address the seminarians. Moreover, the rector at the time, Monsignor Mark Netto of Happy Memories, used to introduce him as an ideal Catholic IAS officer, his father. So we used to call him with some other names afterwards because he was very bold to speak out his opinion, but at the same time totally obedient and submissive to the church and church authorities. Mr. Joseph, IAS. His children, I know, eldest is Johnny Joseph. I call him Johnny Joseph. Not even I say Mr. because we were batchmates for the pre-degree in St. Xavier's Loyola College in Trivandrum. An interesting thing, we were sitting on two sides. We had the first group, pre-degree beginning in Kerala University for the first time. It was maths, physics and chemistry was the group. Johnny was extremely brilliant in mathematics. I was not bad in English. So we used to sit side by side. He used to encourage me, Joseph, why don't you come? We will study why you are putting on your shirts and seminary. And I said, Johnny, you go your way, I will go my way. But we are keeping up the same love even now. And Johnny Joseph, Mr. Johnny Joseph, is the first IAS officer of this family after his father. He opted for the Maharashtra cadre, and His Eminence knows very well that person. And a very trustworthy Catholic person, Johnny Joseph in Maharashtra, in Mumbai. He was the Chief Secretary of Maharashtra, later on Private Secretary to the Governor of Maharashtra. Even now, then he held some other important post, now leading a retired life in Mumbai. That is his elder brother. Now coming to Mr. P.J. Thomas, the younger brother of Johnny Joseph. I do not have that much of intimate contact or intimacy that I have with Mr. Johnny Joseph. Still, I used to see him in 3-4 places. Admirably, I was looking at him. First, as a Chief Secretary of Kerala government. It's the highest post a bureaucrat can have in the state of Kerala. I met him. I was there in the cathedral as the parish priest for 5 years. As I celebrate Mass, even before that also, one thing I just repeatedly, his father was a daily Mass attendant person in St. Joseph Cathedral. Though they belonged to the Syro Malabar Rite, at that time the cathedral was the only place where all the people of the different rites used to come to Palai Cathedral. He was a regular person. The same thing I could see with Mr. P.J. Thomas IAS. He used to come for daily Mass, sometimes 7 o'clock Mass I will be celebrating there. So I will see a person humble enough to come. As he enters the door, he will genuflect, which usually the Oriental rites may not do it, they will just bow only. But P.J. Thomas will genuflect, then will take a seat unnoticingly. Every day he used to come for the Mass. And a communicator also. So that's the one that struck me always. P.J. Thomas IAS is basically, first of all, he's a fine human person and a devout Catholic. These two I can vouch for anywhere and everywhere. Then later on, he moved to Delhi. He became the secretary of the Telecom ministry. He did a good job, very delicate, very controversial post, but he did well. Later on, he was the chief vigilance officer. Any bureaucrat who can aspire anything in Indian bureaucracy is the highest post, chief vigilance officer. He also held that post for some time. But now I cannot divulge everything, but I can tell you, he did not bow to any pressure. He did not yield himself to any temptation. So he gracefully got out of this job and led a very quiet and calm life. This is Mr. P.J. Thomas, a highly intellectual, a very devoted, faithful son, and my own friend. We should highly. Wife also is there. I know. Where is she now? Okay, you are there. You know, I am closely associated with your family. For any celebration in Trivandrum, Johnny Joseph will be there. He will invite me invariably. But he will say, Thomas will come, but he will never turn up in Trivandrum for the subsequent functions. He is now leading a quiet life, which, because of the pressure, to some extent, friendly command of Mr. Antos only, he just came here, that I know. But still, Mr. P.J. Thomas, we cherish your presence. We look forward to your words of wisdom and experience. May God bless you and your family and bless all of you. Thank you.
Your preference.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you.
May I also invite His Grace, Archbishop Peter Machado, to be the moderator of this session. We will give him a very good, great applause also, please.
Kindly be seated, sir. So, we are very happy to start this morning. Your Grace, Archbishop Andrews, Eminence, Cardinal Gracious, Bishop Alex, the office bearers of the CCI, and my dear friends who are here. Father Chinayan has beautifully announced not only the speaker but spoken about him in very glowing terms. I think we started the day very well with this beautiful Mass in the shrine of St. Alfonso and a lot of photographs, a lot of bonhomie. And I think we are beginning the session now. I'm sure those who have taken photos, the photos have already reached the places that you are coming from. I suppose you heard about that couple, husband and wife, of course, very devoted to each other. And the husband was a high-level officer who used to go from place to place. And he had to go for meetings and conferences. And the wife was, of course, they were a good family, but always asking where you are going, when you are going, where you are going to stay, who's going to be with you, you know the reasons. So one day he was going for a conference in Darjeeling. And so he told his wife, I have to go to Darjeeling and there's a big important meeting there. And the wife, as usual, asked all the questions. And then he said, why don't you come also? No, I'm not coming, you go, she said. So as soon as he went to Darjeeling, when he saw the beautiful sight like Palai, he sent that time no phone calls, no mobiles, he sent a telegram. He sent a telegram to his wife, thinking that everything will be over. After 4 days, when he went home, the wife was like a tomato, full of anger, full of wanting to ask him. And then it seems she asked him, you know the telegram that you have sent? Yeah, and he read the telegram. Unfortunately, the telegraph office had made a small mistake. He had sent the telegram, it is so beautiful here, I wish you were here. But unfortunately, the clerks, as usual, make these mistakes. The telegram that came there, it is so beautiful here, I wish you were her. And that made all the confusion. So a small mistake as such. We have been told our respected Officer P.J. Thomas has excelled not only in the church but also in the social, political, bureaucratic life. It's very difficult someone told me, very difficult to combine religion with politics. Very difficult to combine with religion with bureaucracy. But then I think he has done it, and he's going to speak to us on this particular topic of the social involvement of each of us in the country's future, in the country's affairs as such. As far as I am told, Sir has got about 30 minutes. After that, we have anyone who wants to ask questions, etc. And then we go for break at 10:30. My job is to modulate, like the fans, just to put it like this and put it like that, and sometimes ask that put off the fan also. So naturally, it's a job that is only of moderating, which I shall try to do, and I request Mr. Thomas to go ahead.
Your Eminence, President CBCI, Your Grace Andrew Sard, Bishop Alex, and my Kotwala friend. Kotwala means the only one who wears a coat in this entire group, Mr. Antos Anthony. Designation you guess. And my former parish priest is here, Father C. Joseph. My former guru is here, Professor Joseph, somewhere here, I think. I saw him somewhere, advising the Bishop of Kannur. Huh? Sir, I am here, no problem. And Your Grace, then my friends and my esteemed wife, and my ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to avoid the Darjeeling episode that His Grace has just spoken about. I used to go on tour, but she never used to bother. Mainly because she was working in the LIC, which covers the entire life. And quite unlike the wife mentioned by the moderator, problems were better off. Thank you, my former dear parish priest, for the nice words you have spoken about me. And His Eminence also deserves a great, in one of his online mass, I forgot to read the second declaration, and he was slightly annoyed with Mr. Johnny Joseph, but he himself read it. So wherever there is a gap, His Eminence always fills it. Now, starting from this, we are all, myself and Johnny and everybody, we are all IAS officers. Not only that, my wife's brother, Mr. Babu Jacob, he knows him very well. And Mr. Jacob's wife, Mrs. Lizzie Jacob, both of them were chief secretaries in Kerala and very much devoted to Father Joseph. And so this is the family of IAS officers. And what we civil servants find is, we are supposed to implement the policies of the government. And what is policy? Whatsoever the elected ministry wants. Translating that policy into action. That is what they say. Translate a policy into action. Now, when you do that, we think that at the wrong end, there is something wrong because you are doing something. Now, let me come to the church. Whenever we were trained first in the academy, in Masuri Academy, myself and all of us were trained. It's now called Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration. They tell us things about governance, management, and how to deal with the grievances of the people. They also teach us about constitution, various levels in government, how to go through the maze of bureaucracy, whatever you call it. But there itself, when I went for training way back in July 1973, in 1 week, the first director or professor who introduced, he said, let us learn management. Okay, we are ready. They said, look at the Catholic Church. And he was only trying to give the levels of organization. For example, you see in government, there is a chief minister, minister, prime minister, deputy secretary, additional secretary, special secretary. I mean, endless the character goes on. Look at the church. The Pope, the top, the bishop, the parish priest, eminent people like him. And here I am, the laity. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the thing that they first tell us in the academy. I don't know whether they tell you right now itself, but this is the thing. And what they say, the benefit of this, it is an institution that has survived 2,000 years. 2,000 years it has survived. The very same organization continues even today. The very same tiers of organization continue even today. What is the greatness of that organization? I'll leave it to you to decide. You know it very well. The organizational structure of the church is such that it can go for not 2,000 years, it can go for 4,000 years, it can go for 10,000 years. Now we come to the laity. The laity has now slowly learned from the church. Not our laity, maybe our brethren in other religions, our countries. For example, we started with Athens and Sparta and democracy and experimented with all that, and finally we came to the British form of democracy which is available in India. Whereas the Catholic Church, this is news even now. Organization has to become flat. That means everyone who has to have a role in the governance or in the organization has to be reporting to the planner and you. Now, I will explain further. Let us look at the story that the moderator has said. He was talking about a mistake made by the clerk in the telegraph office. Now, we have got over that problem, Your Grace. How? The telegraph office perhaps closed down and BSNL has taken over. So, no more clerk to write, no more clerk to make mistakes, no more clerk to, give all these marital discords. So, the system has totally changed. We know, now looking back at the history, can you go to the next slide, Father? Yeah. Looking back at the history of the church, there have been so many ifs and buts and very controversial things. Initially, we equated the Bible and whatever is said in the Bible to a scientific thinking. And then they said, the Bible says, you go to the ant and learn from the ant. Technically incorrect. There was a geocentric universe and the earth doesn't move. Then somebody said it moves. Thereafter, the distinction between the church and science, it became very clear in the 17th century. And thereafter, the church could not be stopped in its development. Till now, a very revolutionary aspect has now come in the 20th century. The globalization of the world, the communication which is available with everybody, and also it came like in the form of internet. We remember the church. It originated as a movement, small movement in Palestine. Then it was the foundation was laid on Saint Peter. Then Saint Paul codified the religion. It became an institution. And in Rome, Constantine established it as the Church of Rome. But all through, the church has been moving on. The scientific discoveries, the developments, everything comes. But nothing as good as the internet. The internet turns everything upside down. The Laity, he can know whatever His Holiness speaks. He can really understand whatever is told in Vatican. Whatever is happening in any other parish in India or world, people can know. And he or she can talk to anybody in this world. Now, the principles which the homily in the Mass, even that had to be restricted. So, this was a total revolution. Now, this revolution, learning from the church, government organizations have slowly imbibed. I can only say slowly imbibed. But if the church is to imbibe it, Vatican has done it wonderfully well, then, that is the best machinery, that is the best that the church can do for the laity or laity can do for the church. Now, look back again, The Vatican Council, Second Vatican Council took place in 1962 to 1965. Why it was convened was because of the Second World War, the Holocaust, and so many things, and also the Iron Curtain had such a devastating effect or such a revolutionizing effect on the whole world and perhaps the observances of the church that they wanted a new council. But the council's recommendations, 3 years it took, were totally revolutionary in the sense that they said it is the universal church, there is a universal mission, and it has to go to the laity. For the first time in 1965 onwards, the laity became fully participative in the sermons or in whatever the church is doing. They had councils, and the biggest change was change into the vernacular. We remember in the younger days we used to hear Latin masses. We didn't understand a word of it. But subsequently, the Vatican Council changed it into vernacular. So the parish priest comes so close to the laity that the bond is very difficult to break. So close. I mean, the attachment between the parish priest and the laity becomes so intense and intimate that whenever there is a problem in the family, parish priest used to go. It happens, let us look at the coastal side, fishermen families. Look at the image that the parish priest has on the families in the coastal sector, on their incomes, their earnings, their marriage. Father Joseph and others would definitely vouch for that. And in fact, we are all hearing so many things about socio-political areas, Munambam, Bidinyam, so many other things we hear. All that, it has become really wonderful to come through. Now, if this is the case, then what does the church expect of us? We all know that we are members of the church. We can definitely, with secular specializations and experts, we can help the church in umpteen ways. Now, church has been very, extensively working on education and health. His Holiness, himself was a Jesuit, and Jesuits are known for education and health. But the moment he took over as Pope, he has embraced the Vatican Council's, vision, and he was clearly of the opinion that the vision was not fully realized. The laity definitely could realize the vision, but at that time the technical support was not there. Now, the vision of Vatican II can be realized with the internet type, reversing all the systems in operation. Now, with the internet, with the transparency that we are seeing, with the types of discussion that every member of the laity can definitely take forward, there is a huge contribution we can give to the church. Even today, I have been working in the government. There's so many nuns and priests and others working in the health sector and working in the education sector. So many Jesuits also do major institutions like St. Xavier's Bangalore, Loyola Madras, Chennai, or Trivandrum, St. Xavier's. All these, if you get money from the treasury, the TDS, the tax deducted source has to be remitted. Well, this shows that for years, for perhaps thousands of years, nobody is taking salary. The money is fully accounted, and the church is doing a wonderful job. Individual instances can be there. The Holiness himself, clamped down heavily on the difficulties in Vatican. But, the way the Vatican Council has guided us, the universal church, the contribution to the laity to this, the expertise that the laity can provide to the church, all this remains seminal and unique to the whole church. Only I may be allowed to conclude because it's almost nearing 20 minutes, 25-30 minutes. There will be enough items for discussion. And to conclude, let me say that we are all still in the process of learning. Why we say we are in the process of learning is because the internet has completely changed the way we function. The internet has completely demolished all the institutions, all the connections, all the structures that we had. And along with that comes the bigger threat, artificial intelligence. Now, internet coupled with artificial intelligence is a deadly cocktail, as we say. But you have to see that. You have to delineate, separate faith from the church. Faith from the science, and understand how this is to be approached. The artificial intelligence gives training in a particular direction to all the equipments and all the tools, that they'll bring about a particular method of thinking, a particular method of action. And this, according to experts, is only 5% or 10% of the entire spectrum of intelligence. We can have huge computing power, we can have huge masses of data being churned, and finally come out with a small action. But the complexity of the brain is still unheard of, unresolved in that so-called artificial general intelligence which they say. You train somebody in a particular method, the training goes on and on, but something happens in between, the artificial intelligence AI fails. Because to those students of mathematics who are aware, it is based on a system of equations where the solutions of the equations are fed back into the system, and that particular array of numbers called matrices or tensors solve it further and further and further. They try to imitate it based on the neurons in the brain, not very successful. The mechanism of the brain, even today, the neurons, the nodes, I'm sorry about using technical words, they are nowhere. The impact of the human brain, the ingenuity of the human brain is still unresolved. This is perhaps the ultimate. We know there is so much to learn. Let us, His Holiness had said, I have seen so many ministers meaning not the political ministers, maybe votaries of various agencies, getting puffed up when they understand some knowledge. They all get puffed up, but this puffing up is not Christian. I agree they know so many things. Please don't get puffed up. This is one of his addresses, because I could hear it during the COVID times. So he says, don't get puffed up, be humble. I am only ending with a small story of St. Augustine. I don't know if it is true or not. St. Augustine was walking on the beach. Then when they found a small child picking up a hole and then trying to pour some water into it, then he asked, Beta or child, what are you doing? He said, I am going to drain the ocean. Then of course he smiled. This is exactly our situation. We should learn, we should be pious, we should definitely be humble, and our secular contribution to the expertise of the church, using the internet and the technical thing, the best thing we should do. And the saying is, Holiness is repeated, whatever you do, the least of my people, you do unto me. So, I've done 25 minutes. Thank you very much, Your Grace. We'll leave it for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. As expected, we are not only happy and proud of you because you still consider the church as something very special. The first example that you give, that even in your trainings, they say refer to the church. We are very much, I would say, privileged to hear this. But at the same time, we know that your contribution to the society also has been great. The contribution of the Catholic Church is in two ways. One is as an institution, the education, the hospital, perhaps the many other things. The second is individual. The church also gets its privilege and prestige because of individuals who are far, far, perhaps the models in the society. And one of them is Mr. P.J. Thomas. We also have so many others among us in Kerala, in Karnataka. In Karnataka, just now they speak about Justice Michael Dikunna. Michael Dikunna, as you know, he had a district judge, and he had a case of the Jayalalitha to settle with, and you know how it was settled, or rather what was the judgment. The second one is just now what is going on is also, he's asked to sort of give his judgment on what's called the COVID time malpractices. The malpractice during COVID time, and that also is making news in Karnataka. So as I open this assembly for questions as regards your also intervention in the government policies, as you said, the duty of the IAS officer is to keep up the policies or rather further the policies of the government. It does not matter to you what the policies are, but to sort of faithfully put them across to the people. So I would open it for questions, perhaps 15 minutes we have, and then we can go for this one. Could you pass a mic to there?
My name is Benedict Mascarenhas. I'm from Archdiocese of Mumbai and also a member of the Executive Committee of the CCI. Mr. Thomas, you have seen both sides of the world. You are an exemplary Catholic and you are also a member, have been the IAS officer. What do you think are the concrete steps that the Church should take so that more Catholics get involved in the bureaucracy and in the IAS?
I think I made my position very clear. You know, the bureaucracy, containing more Catholics or more people is somewhat of a myth. The Church, that is why I emphasize the organization of the Church. It is not something like the government. It is only an organization in which there are simply 4 tiers. I, as a member of the laity, I have only 3 tiers between me and the Pope. So the Church is founded on things which are totally different. The implementation of policy from the government level, be it state or central, there is the limitation of what you imagine, limitation of what you understand, limitation of what you deem good for the people. Say for example, 400 years ago, what Akbar or Jahangir thought was good for the people is not good for the people now. The mission of the Church, now with the internet coming, is completely from the laity onto the Church. It should be activities which would support. And His Holiness Pope Francis has said, it is not in the activity that you do that your life should display that you are a true Christian. We don't want everybody to be a Catholic. We don't want everybody to be coming with us. We don't want everybody to run in the bureaucracy. That is an extremely limited role. That concept is gone now. It's a flat thing. I hope I have made clear.
So thank you very much, sir, for the answer. We will permit another 5 questions, preferably on 5 different areas or topics, because let's not go on repeating the same one again and again. We get very rarely personalities like Mr. Thomas with us. So, yeah. So, okay, sir, come. Well, tell your name, from where you are coming, and what is your question?
So this is Joy TF from Calicut Diocese, Kerala. So happy to listen to a very humane words of a very elite man, and we are lucky to listen to the philanthropic approach. And yeah, you were speaking on the change of how the internet has changed the world and the influence of internet on the church. But unfortunately, the internet has not changed the persecution of the church. And I would like to know what's your approach or your opinion that the church is undergoing such a terrible persecution even today. How do you look at it?
I think, Mr. Joy, the question itself has the answer. How come did you know that persecution is going on in so many areas of the world? We come to know because of the internet. Let's see, Nero burnt Rome. Diocletian, killed so many Christians. Nobody knew it. Nobody knew it till historians wrote. So basically, the transparency of the information that comes to you is the most important thing. We know what is happening in Manipur. I'm not giving any opinion on that. Most of the eminent bishops know. We know what is happening in Nagaland or other places. We know what is happening in China. They've asked prior clearance for the bishop to be appointed in Beijing. Why we know? It's all because of the internet. So the vehicle which gives you the information is not to blame. Something, if we say in an extreme case, don't shoot the messenger. I think this is one of the benefits that gives us the information about whatever is going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think you have answered. The medium is the message. So the internet medium itself could be the message for us. We don't have to wait for a lot of instructions, perhaps as Laity, by commenting, by writing, by speaking. We can also join the church. Many a time you expect the bishops and the cardinals to make big statements, but where are the lay people? Perhaps we have to put it back to you, give the mic back again to you. So, sir, come.
Good morning. My name is Derek Jackson. I'm from Lucknow. In the very beginning of your speech presentation, sir, you said that the longevity of the church can be attributed to the rigid structural hierarchy that it has. If I'm not mistaken, that was what you had said. Now we have the concept of synodality. Don't you think these two things are diametrically opposite if implemented in letter and spirit? Will not the hierarchy be shaken up a little bit if synodality comes into true effect?
I'm sorry, I'm not much familiar with synodality. His Grace has now explained it. It is the system in which the entire church cooperates and contributes to the functioning of the church. Well, this is this is exactly what the same thing which I was also telling. The rigid organizational nature of the church which you mentioned, it is not a rigid structure. It is the Pope. The second level is the bishop, the third level is the parish priest, and the fourth level is the laity. It is not the rigid organizational structure, because in management there is one thing as levels of decision making. See, looking at the levels of decision making, we in government are familiar with a Tahsildar, a district collector, we find it a government secretary, the chief secretary, and onwards to the Prime Minister, Government of India and all. The levels are so many, and what a decision taken at the village level or the taluk level will go under a totally metamorphosis when it reaches the union level. You are from Lucknow, you know, walking through the streets of Lucknow is not walking through the streets of Palai. And walking through the streets of Lucknow at night is never the same as walking safely through the streets of Palai. So it is not this rigidity of the organization, as you mentioned, the synodality, which is brought in by the internet. Internet has made everything flat. The laity knows what is happening from the Holy Father. Laity knows what is happening inside Vatican. Laity knows what the cardinals are doing. Laity knows what the disciplinary action the Pope has taken against this absolute synodality, and the equipment of that synodality is internet and artificial intelligence. The main driving force, the vision of Vatican II. Though it came before the internet, it is this that is being implemented now.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, could you tell your name and from where you come from? Yes.
I am Thomas from Mandya Diocese, Bangalore. Sir, due to Industrial Revolution and Second World War, there was a relevance of Vatican Council II. Now, due to the internet and the computerization and artificial intelligence, how the church is going to affect, and in what way the church has to futuristically thinking about it. So what is your take on that? Whether it is time for a third Vatican Council or something like that, it is required.
No, the last part of the question, the College of Cardinals only can decide whether it is due for a third Vatican Council or not. But I must say, the cataclysmic events like the Industrial Revolution, what you said, then the Second World War in the sense that the colossal murder of the Jews, and the gas chambers and whatnot. Then the Iron Curtain, the famous saying, "Stettin on the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic," communist countries. All these were rather cataclysmic events as perceived at that time in history. And therefore, Saint John 23rd decided that let us have a council. And when the bishops came to the council, the saint himself was totally surprised by the suggestions that came. The drastic suggestion and the revolution that happened when the vernacular came to be implemented. See, we were Father was looking away from the congregation. Then Vatican changed it. The Father was looking forward to the congregation. Of course, not the controversy in Angamali, but now in vernacular. So I know what is a prayer. So when I come to the church, the first prayer I know in Malayalam, be it in English, and in places like Delhi, they are having it Malayalam, English, Tamil, and of course Hindi. So this makes the congregation participate with the Father. This makes the Father also interact with them. And this has been brought about by the so-called internet. And internet is a great leveler. Now, even election propaganda, the big leader can speak directly to the voter. Similarly, the Pope, he can speak directly to a member of the laity like me or you. And both of us are Thomases, so we will doubt always, Thank you.
Thank you very much. As regards the Second Vatican or Third Vatican, I think the cardinals will have to reply, but whether Holy Father has told him anything, I don't know. Okay, one hand is there on the last side. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I am Father Michael from Tamil Nadu. I am the Secretary to the Tamil Nadu Laity Commission. So for the preparation for the Jubilee 2025, we are taking the Second Vatican Council, the 4 documents to all the dioceses, and the diocese-wise, vicariate-wise, parish-wise. One of the main point I noticed there in the church in the modern world. So there is a gap between the faith and the everyday life. So the document is strongly advising the lay people, you are in 99% among the total population. So you have the great responsibility to solve that issue, to bring close our faith as well as our everyday life. So my question is, only very few high officials are in the Catholics. So we have a IAS officer, IAS Sahayam. Some of you may know his name, IAS Sahayam. Within few years, he was transferred to so many places because he was so honest and fully, he was not corrupted. He was known for his honesty. So, as I hear from you, sir, you are the family of IAS officers. So, is there any challenges for you? Because the church document says, if you are in a field of education, if you are in a field of, in different field you are, so you be a salt, you be a light to the society. By your witnessing life, you settle this issue of faith as well as our everyday life. So there should not be a gap for our faith as well as our everyday life. So very few of our Catholic officials are there, and they are always cornered by the government. So how do you witness? So can you say something about challenging or witnessing your life?
this is only a question of faith as well as our everyday life. No, faith is something completely different from everyday life. See, I became an IAS officer. How? About 10 lakhs of people wrote the exam. I was 10th or 6th in the list. How did you manage that? If you ask me, the question is simple. I used to go to church and wrote the exam and simply went and prayed in the same church in which he was parish priest. I mean, that is my experience. I mean, this is simply deeply a personal experience, you know. The same thing would be shared by my elder brother, has been shared, I am sure, to Cardinal His Eminence. So the faith is one thing, and our daily activity is yet another. Now, where the two merge together, it's in compassion. Now, wherever Jesus Christ went in that far-off Palestine years ago, whenever he met somebody, he redressed his personal grievance. He redressed it and then said, you know, please make it such that your life displays your Christian nature. And he gave great emphasis on both compassion and gratitude. You know that. 10 lepers he cured. He asked, where are the other 9? So, whenever you are safe in life, whenever you feel comfortable, please remember there are thousands of others, millions of others who are not similarly placed. And according to us, you know, health is the greatest thing. Second is education. Now, to answer your question on officers being transferred, well, you say honesty is good, but not to such an extent that compassion is simply ignored. For example, somebody comes to you, I want 100 rupees. I am absolutely honest, I don't have 100 rupees on me. Or I am corrupt, I have 100 rupees on you. So, I'll ask him, what do you need? What exactly is your requirement? I treat him as a fellow being and then show my compassion. Say, for example, you know, so many lay people work for the church. Why should you work for the church? Nobody need work for the church. Even then the church will survive. Similarly, I met Father Biju yesterday. We are together in the car. All along we were talking about the communication division of St. Thomas College, Thrissur. And the commitment with which he went and told the families, look, your child, your ward can come and study mass communication and still be a big achiever, not doctor or engineer. So faith is faith, compassion mixed with faith, kindness and everything, which our Lord has taught us, that will see us through. And ultimately, if as an officer they transfer me, they transfer you throughout. It can only be in India or worse, Pakistan or Kabul. We're ready to go, I'm sure. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your forthright answer. I think, I said last question, but there is one more behind. With that, with your permission, we will give one more behind, okay? Yeah. So, okay. Come, ma'am.
Yeah, mine is a very short question, sir.
Your name and where you come from.
I am Retd from Bombay, Archdiocese of Bombay, part of the executive of the CCI. My point is that you've been an excellent service in the IS. Your brother in Bombay, Mr. Johnny Joseph, he's always been involved with us, helped us in various affairs. I want to ask you honestly, do you honestly feel that if all over India, more and more of our Christians, Catholics get involved into this kind of service, civil services, IS, IPS, whatever, will it definitely not make our community stronger, our church body stronger, and our presence stronger wherever we are to get things done? That's what I feel.
Well, if you thank you for the question and thank you for the nice words about my brother. But you know, the only thing is we are saying that the IAS is a very limited community. They are only implementing policies as a government. If an IAS officer is not a true Christian, I would say that it is better he is not there. Because somebody who comes to you, it's compassion that means. See, look at the Bible. Jesus Christ, wherever the compassion was. And look at Saint Paul, the person who codified the church. He was persecuting Christians. Then, when his mission changed, he was a great ardent. This is what is needed. This is separate from the particular structure of IAS, IPS, and all that. If you start improving that structure, it's purely left to the Prime Minister and the government, not our duty. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I think one more before that. Ma'am, I think your question of IAS officers and children, we have to be really honest and ask ourselves. How many of you got children who are encouraged to go to IAS or IPS? You will encourage your children to become doctors and go to America, or perhaps you will say that you IT, BT, go to Europe and go to the Gulf. I think the bishops in Kerala have made enough efforts to start the institutes. We also in Bangalore, there is not much of response. We are not honest. We want someone else's son to be the IAS officer, but not my son. He has to go to America. So this is our approach. I think we have to be serious about it. Whether we are really this one. The Muslims are serious. They have announced that 50 institutes of IAS will be started in India. The one was inaugurated in Bangalore by the speaker, Mr. Khadar, by himself, and I was called for it. So in the sense, the other communities will go on, but our communities will go on talking. Come, one more. Last one, come. You speak loudly. Put on the mic.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Sadish Francis, an advocate by profession. I am representing Archdiocese of Nagpur, Maharashtra. My question is very simple. I just want to know what are the social aspects which in our country is never discussed or not usually addressed properly, like economic inequality and political discrimination regarding caste and creed. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Satish, this is a very broad question. You know, ideally it should be addressed to the Prime Minister of India from Nagpur. But then, you know, to my limited knowledge, there are many problems that India faces. The social issues and the other economic issues, etc. But what I would suggest is that if there are strong institutions that are built up based on our democratic principles or other principles of governance, then those institutions will make sure that the country is developed and its social problems are minimized. Say for example, so many countries have colonized various countries in last century, but some countries have developed after that. Why? Because the institutions those countries set up were phenomenal and they were not exploitative. Similar is the church. As an institution, wherever the church went, it has never been exploitative. And it will never exploit. And this is what keeps the church going. 2,000 years, 10,000 years. And this is what everybody looks up to in the church. However much you say father is not good, father and nuns creating problems, whatever you say, the basic objective for which the church is working, that is never compromised. And very few fathers, you say, end up in jail for misappropriation and absolute. Maybe there is a small scandal in Vatican Bank. Don't try. No, as an advocate, I'm glad you are trying to solve the problems of the country. I'm sorry, I'm unequal to the job. It is just like the story of Saint Augustine trying to drain the ocean using a small hole.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we are a little late. And come.
Thank you, sir. Request Advocate Abraham Patiani, Executive Member of CCI, to deliver a word of thanks for this session.
Eminence and Graces and Excellencies and the Moderator, Archbishop Machado, the keynote address given by our great Christ witness in the bureaucrats, P.J. Thomas, sir. Before taking my turn, may I invite the CCI President, Grace Archbishop Andrews Pidawa, and the Vice President, CCI Vice President, Andrew Joseph, to honor our guest, P.J. Thomas sir.
So, thank you so much for His Grace Archbishop Peter Machado. So wisely he has moderated this session, and thank you so much for your great presence also, please. Now, few announcements before we leave the auditorium. One thing is with regard to the registration. If someone has not yet registered here,
I'm
please.
sorry, Father. So it is a nice occasion, and the keynote address was very wonderful. It is from a living Christian, Catholic, the Christ witness in the bureaucrat. I had a few occasions to be with Sir in various things for the church only, but I have seen that his silent directions to the officers and his message to the officers how to deal with the representations or necessary requests from the church and community. So today, sir, in your address you have said very correctly that the present world, the Christianity, the present the church in India, the Laity's involvement is very important, and you made a point that the social and the scientific new inventions like internet and all those things invite the laity participation in a greater extent in the church to build the church and to witness Jesus Christ in India and the whole world. Yesterday, our eminence has clearly said the synodality means the relevant Christians relevant, the church relevant in the present era. Christ is relevant, the church is relevant yesterday and today and tomorrow. Therefore, the participation and the presence of laity is very important, as you correctly said and pointed out. The involvement and participation of the laity in the church is very important to witness Jesus Christ in this wonderful nation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful keynote address. And on behalf of all our eminence, graces, and bishops, and all the members of all over the country, the representations are here, all of the members of CCI, we are proud of you, sir, and thank you very much for receiving and acknowledging our invitations and be present with us. Thank you, sir. And also the moderator, our Archbishop Machado, was very beautifully moderated the session, and for and on behalf of CCI, we extend the great thanks and love and concern to our Archbishop. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. I didn't think that he is taking so much time. I had already told him just 2 minutes anyway. Before we come out of the auditorium, some announcements. One is with regard to our registration. If someone has missed the registration, please go to the registration counter. Our people will be there to serve you there. Of course, you know the registration fee is 1,000 rupees. And with regard to the registration form and all, you are all given one form. Please fill it properly and give it us back in this afternoon itself. And now we are officially going for the group photo just in front of our Alphonsine Center itself. It is all arranged there. We will go for the photo, and after the photo we will go for the coffee break, and we will be back here by 11:10. Okay. Otherwise it is already 10:40. So we will start our session by 11:10. Thank you.